a cup of coffee, and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Digest for folks. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora.
Good morning, Aurora.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
The live studio audience.
That's right. We don't push buttons here.
No.
Those are real humans. Thank you, all
That's
you people
right.
out there.
We're so glad you made it.
We can't see you behind the lights, but we are here.
Everyone's masked.
Right, vaccinated chat.
Exactly.
The whole thing.
And we have a special guest today. We have the VP of Programming and Sales, amongst other things, with us for the Paramount and that trail of superlatives. Word of the day. Superlatives leads to Mr. Jim Jarvis.
I feel like I need to drink a sip of coffee.
Yes. Sip it up. We can all sip it up.
Yeah,
you at home. Yep.
You get a coffee and you get a coffee. I feel like Oprah. Thank you guys so much, man. This is super cool.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it, man.
Yep. So we've got the local stuff that you like. That's Jenettesplaining once again on a beautiful Friday. We're here. We made it through the week. Jeanette, how you feeling?
I feel great.
Good.
I'm so good. I got some big personal news, not quite ready to release it to the world yet, but I'm really excited about it. So
okay.
Stay tuned.
Little prequel. Yeah, all right.
Oh, nice teaser.
Yeah.
Could you write it on a piece of paper for Curtis and I and Monica to know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have paper here, but yes, like in theory.
Funny you say that.
Yeah.
Take care of that for you.
Yep. Jim came prepared.
Yes.
Jim came prepared. So all of you guys at home, you're listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Thank you for tuning in, checking us out. I want to give a personal thank you, just really quick, to two friends of the show, Mr. Joel Friend and Jay Kelly. Shouts out to the brothers. See you on Twitter. Okay. So let's now, Jeanette, hold on. Before we get into Jim and his life story and everything about him,
All the things.
you got something to tell us about the past holiday here, Indigenous Peoples Day. Was that right?
Yes, yeah. So our Jenettesplaining segment for the week, we're just doing a segment today because we've got Jim here, so we're gonna switch it up a little bit instead of y'all hearing me talk for the entire hour. You're welcome. So this Monday was Indigenous Peoples Day / Columbus Day, depending on where you're at right now in this moment. And I just wanted to take some time and kind of, because this has been seeming to blow up this year and the past couple of years for like in every little corner of the internet right now on like, it's Indigenous Peoples Day, no, it's Columbus Day, and we go back and forth. And so I just wanted to, but like it's actually a really fascinating sort of thing. And so I wanted to kind of dig in with a little Aurora perspective, and I'm sure Jim here can relate. I know the Paramount recently, posted their
It was our day off. Box office was closed.
Right,
Yep.
at which we've been taking the day off for Columbus Day, or at least a lot of organizations do. It's a federal holiday, right? Banks were closed and things like that. But you guys posted that it was, we're taking the day off, it's Indigenous Peoples Day. And then, of course, this inevitably turned into the, like, what about Columbus, right? And so, right? So it's a whole thing. And we can talk about it from the arts and perspective, too, in terms of how we decide what gets represented where, which I think is becoming a much bigger conversation in the Paramount. But just to add some historical context, I want to give you all some of the history of Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day and how it relates locally here in Aurora. So, we celebrate on the Monday in October, and it's usually Columbus Day historically, and has been since 1842 is the first time that we celebrated Columbus Day.
Right before Good Morning Aurora started.
Right before, right. We've been around for 100 years now, 150 years, if everyone knows. No. So this was it was basically the 400 years after Columbus, arrived in the New World, right? And so they were doing the Columbian Exposition. They were doing all these Columbus-y things. But that wasn't really the trigger for Columbus Day. The reason why it started is because at that time, there's actually a ton of anti-Italian sentiment. It was because like every wave of immigrants has always faced somebody being jerks to them, even though someone else was an immigrant before then, right? And that's kind of our pattern here. And at the time, the big wave of anti-immigration sentiment was against Italians and Irish, right? And so what really was the inciting incident was a bunch of Italian Americans were accused of killing the police chief down in New Orleans, and then they were acquitted. And so then a mob of people from New Orleans came and like broke these Italian Americans out of jail and murdered them all, even though they had been acquitted. Yeah, so like 11 people died. And there was all this like, oh, these guys got acquitted, they got off because the Italian mob got them off, and that was like this whole like story, and this blew up into this huge like national thing. And at the same time, and then this whole thing, because all these people got murdered even though they had been acquitted, it caused all of this huge this international conflict with Italy, right? With actual Italy. They were like, well, our people are going over there and getting murdered? Like, what? Like, so it got to the point where the Italians even pulled their ambassador back from the United States and vice versa, and there was like murmurs of war. This is a whole thing. I know, crazy, right? With Italy. We almost went like we didn't almost go to war, but there were people like right, blowing steam. And then at the same time, President Harrison now needed the Italian vote because he was not doing great in the polls, and also he needed to like repair ties with Italy. So he really latched onto this, like it's the 400th anniversary of Columbus thing, and he was like, national holiday, and so he created Columbus Day to celebrate all of this, and it became this huge, the idea was to make it a huge like patriotic thing, right, for Columbus, who discovered America, asterisk, right? So that's and it's also when the Pledge of Allegiance was written and first like used and all this. Is this whole big thing, and they did all these big parties in Times Square and all of this stuff, none of which Harrison attended because his wife was dying of tuberculosis at the time, because 1842, and then he ended up losing anyway to Grover Cleveland, who came back, like he was president, and then Harrison, and then Cleveland again. So but it became a national holiday in 1934, and then a federal holiday officially, like the banks were closed and Wall Street and all of that, in 1971, which is about the time that indigenous groups started protesting and being like, this guy was kind of an a-hole, pardon my French, right? Like, and which is sort of the one of the major, like 71 was about the time that the Red Power movement was starting. You're starting to see indigenous people protesting a lot more frequently for their rights. So that's kind of the backdrop of Columbus Day. And of course, now what we're seeing with Indigenous Peoples Day is all these growing protests saying like, look, like Columbus also committed mass genocide, right, when he got here, to the point where when he arrived in Hispaniola, the natives who lived there, they were not decimated, because decimated only means to reduce by a tenth. They were almost complete. They were wiped out, right? It was genocide. And on top of that, like people in neighboring, like throughout the region, the natives, when they heard like that the Spaniards or that Columbus's men were coming through, there were like suicides and things like that to try and like to just because they would rather like go out on their own than be tortured by the colonizers. So this guy sucked. He sucked so bad that he was taken back to Spain in shackles, because for his war atrocities, right? Like people were done with Columbus. Yeah. So not a great guy. And the way that I like to frame this whole sort of thing is one of my best friends is both Mexican, so largely indigenous, and Italian, and he's like at the heart of this conflict, like internally, and is like, there are so many other better Italians that we could honor, right, that have had lots of things, like Galileo or Michelangelo or Dante or Da Vinci. Like, there's so many great Italians. This guy is the the worst Italian. And this really blew up. I think a lot of people saw it during the last summer too, when the statues of Columbus, or 2 statues of Columbus in Chicago, and the mayor ended up taking them down because mobs were attempting to take them down. So, and the Italian American neighborhood was kind of pushing back on it a lot. Like, they wanted their statue, in part, not necessarily because of Columbus as a person, who most people agree was pretty awful, although he had a lot of influence, right? It doesn't necessarily make someone, like, lots of people have lots of influence and you don't want to honor them, right? So that's kind of the whole Columbus Indigenous Peoples Day thing. And I also have like my own like personal, when it becomes this like, oh, but Italian American heritage, like you can't take that away from us. I'm kind of like, but Casimir Pulaski Day is not a thing anymore. Like,
right? Yeah.
Right? Do you remember Casimir
Pulaski? Yeah, I do. I'm
Day?
old enough to remember.
Right. So like,
I'm from the South Side. So.
Right. Thank you. Southside Polish represents.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. My family's from Bridgeport. So like, we used to get that day off. We don't get that day off anymore. Basically, not everybody gets a holiday. That's okay.
Right.
Like it's fine. We can swap out holidays from here, like every now and then. It's okay. So anyway, here's our Aurora angle, which is that a lot of places, like you may have seen over the past week, a lot of organizations and stuff have posted. Okay, all right, I'm wrapping up. Like our organization is on native land, and it'll say like who the native land like belonged to, right? Like who lived here before, and it's a really, really, really long and convoluted story, because basically once the Europeans started moving into North America, it created all this conflict with the indigenous people, because they were getting forced from the coast further and further and further west. And so we don't really know necessarily, especially without a written record, who was here thousands of years ago, but we know back to about the 1800s, 1800s, and at that point in this area, it was tribes called we had the Sacs, and we had the Fox, and we had the Potawatomi, and all of those names are names that other people foisted upon them. So if you want to get like crazy into it, the Fox, which people like, that Fox River that we have, it's not named after the animal fox, it's named after the tribe named Fox, but the people got the name Fox because the French called them the Reynards, which means fox, but really they called themselves something totally different, which is Meskwaki. So,
and that's almost as cool as a name as Jim Jarvis.
Almost.
So,
wow.
So now we're transitioning.
First of all, that was amazing.
That was an amazing story.
Yeah, it really, truly was.
So there you go. So Good Morning Aurora brought to you on the Potawatomi, Sac, and Fox / Meskwaki lands, and that's your bit of random history for the day. Let's turn it over to Jim. Hi, Jim.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
All right. So tell us about the Paramount.
Yeah.
Kinky Boots is about to wrap up.
Yeah, so Kinky Boots is about to wrap up for its, I think, 71 performances by the time it was all. Are you?
I'm going tomorrow. I'm
what
so
time?
excited. I don't know. 7?
The nighttime, we do a 3 and an 8 tomorrow, and then Sunday is 1 and 5:30. You're just showing up.
I'm just dressing pretty and going.
Nice.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing is, I think what we found is a couple things that. Now, first of all, you couldn't ask for a better message in these times than Kinky Boots,
right,
with acceptance, like listening and accepting, and the cast is amazing. It's been so cool to see the variety of people who have come through the doors, and so yeah, it's exciting for us to get those doors back open again. We're going to go into Second City next, so we start with the Second City Holiday Show in November, and it's over at the Copley Theater, our smaller theater that we just got done
right across the street.
Yeah, we
took
all
the renovations. Yeah.
Well, the cool part was like Tim, our CEO, Tim Rader, decided, hey, we're going to take advantage of the downtime with COVID. And so the plan was to renovate Copley, so we didn't stop it. We had it renovated, and it's beautiful and it's cool. And then we come back in a couple of weeks. I think 4 weeks from now, we open up Cinderella on November 10th.
Oh,
and then
snap.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be cool. And it's Rodgers and Hammerstein, Cinderella. We just did a photo shoot yesterday with Cinderella in the theater. there, or in the Grand Gallery, and so it's exciting for everybody to be back again. It's been a long haul, man. Those 17 months were a difficult 17 months for people.
Yeah.
You know,
what did you do with that time?
It's funny. I was going to say that, you know,
like you personally, what were your days like?
Well, I'll tell you this, that, you know, before it was like March 13th, March 12th, we had roughly full and part-time employees, 272. Within a month, we were down to 12 part-time employees. And the goal was literally just keep things going.
Right.
You know, and it was tough. All these people that you worked with were on furlough. And so really what happened was people just, but that's the basis for, I think, what we are as an organization to begin with. Even on your regular day, somebody needs help, you jump in, you take care of it. Like Tim Rader is the CEO at River Edge Park. I've watched that dude bar back and carry cases of beer and pour beer and pick up garbage, and like everybody does that. And so it was even more intensified. So the areas that I oversee, like I was doing virtual tours for group sales on Zoom, because obviously those senior groups can't go anywhere, but we put together, and I did a ton of those on stuff. I worked with one of our folks who was in front of house, and so like it was great that our organization helped to support our artists during the holidays. So we had kind of the artists who are behind the scenes, who, you know, are crafting wood and who build our costumes and sewing and do all these cool stuff and candles. We did kind of an online holiday bazaar for them that ran for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they had to pick up at our place. We did, like Trent, who was the director for Kinky Boots, and a friend of his, those guys did gift wrapping to make money. And so we opened up our lobby, and people would drop the gifts off there. Trent and his partner would take care of all that stuff, and then they would come back later. So like I would change out marquees, and everybody was doing all that kind of stuff. I happen to oversee the department that has operational custodial cleaning. So we learned a lot about COVID at that time, and it was really interesting, right? At first it was make sure you wipe everything down, because that's how it's being transmitted.
That was the very first like script.
Right, yeah. And
wash your hands.
And it was, and we just kept evolving.
That's what I already do. Yeah.
But I literally learned how to use the electrostat machine that you use. We bought these power sprayers to come in and like spray everything down. So it was one of those that everybody just kept doing stuff to stay alive, and then trying to stay in contact, you know, with the people that you work with as well. So it was fun. Like there was a day that my wife and I took a Sunday, and we did the Wiener Wagon. So for a bunch of people who were in our departments, we told them, hey, look, are you going to be around at this time? We're going to pull up. We've got hot dogs, all the condiments. I've got Twinkies, all sorts of other kinds of things. I've got PBR. My wife made Jello shots. We did all this
Twinkies,
stuff.
PBR, and Jello shots?
Yes.
When's the next one, bro?
Right. Sounds like you should drop acid and twirl dance at the same time on it.
That's the best interview ever.
So we literally would go to people's homes, pull up in the driveway, do like a mini tailgate for 15 minutes, get to see, you know, somebody that we work with, and then, you know, move on to the next person. And we tried to cover as many as we could. We actually started on a Saturday and did it again on a Sunday, but like just to try to stay in contact with these folks, because, you know, they're at home and they're wondering what's going on. I think that, you know, one of the keys to what Tim did was he constantly communicated, no matter what happened, you know, like once a month, once every 6 weeks, he was sending out emails to people and letting them know they were thinking about him, our staff. So it was a really long haul. And, you know, we were talking before with Curtis and you before we went on the air about how it just looked like the zombie apocalypse when you came downtown. And I think that was such a stark thing to like every day I would come down here. I worked from home for the most part, but I just needed to come back just to have a touch, you know, of the place, and to sit there and stare at a dark marquee, watch the lobby closed, all these empty desks. Like I remember after about 6 months, I went into Lost and Found and realized, oh, there's water bottles in there that people had left from the last performance. Because literally, oops, sorry about that. As we,
no, it's all good.
Like we all of a sudden shut down and everything went dark. So we just put stuff away. So like I went through the refrigerators and dumped out all people's lunches and all that kind of stuff. And it was such telling, sad moments of, and naively I thought, by the fall we're going to be back up and running again. And we weren't, and it kept going and it kept going. And the other thing for me, so part of my job is I do programming for our general season shows. So, at the time it's, like Jay Leno and Frank Caliendo and Straight No Chaser and some of these. So I had to work with the agents in moving those shows to, and finding a date that works for us and for them. And like Jay Leno, from the time I first booked him till the time he's actually going to hit the stage will be over 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's right, because he was slated to be there.
Right, yeah. And he sold out pretty fast. And the majority of the people stayed with it. And it was interesting, like for us, we got together with Tim and our box office. We were one of the few box offices that were still open during the pandemic, that we're lucky enough to have a remote box office in our offices and then the main one at Paramount. So we had 3 people there, and it was Kevin, Marie, and Christian. They were socially distanced, so because we were getting tons of calls of people wondering, like, what's going on? What's going to happen to my tickets? Where do we go from there?
Yeah, can I get new ones?
Right, yeah. And I think what we did was cool from the standpoint of a lot of different concert venues and theaters made people decide pretty quickly, we're going to reschedule it, or do you want your tickets or don't you? And for us, we looked and went, well, how do we help people make that decision? So our deal was, look, we got a new date. Here's where we are, at least right now. You don't have to tell us until 60 days before that show whether you can make it or not. And if you can, great. Your tickets are still good. If you can't, we'll give you a full refund or a credit. But it was those kind of things that we were operating within it. And the whole time, within a month, Tim got us together and said, all right, we got to start figuring out how are we going to open again. So when we reopen, what are we doing? So we started looking at different scenarios for Paramount. And that is, if we have to socially distance, how many people can we get in the theater? What's the configurations, all that stuff. Kevin Burrows, our audience services director, started doing all these configurations. I think at the time we could only get 488 people into an 1,800 seat venue if we had to go through social distancing. So at that point, Tim had to look and go like, all right, if we're going to open Kinky Boots, how long do we need to run it to be able to at least break even on those? So we kept doing all these different scenarios. And a lot of people still don't realize
Kinky Boots is running for 3.5
right,
years.
That's what it is. But like at the same time, we've got River Edge Park, right? So we have like 16 shows booked there, and bands just started dropping off. Snoop canceled his tour, and Sugarland canceled their tour.
Can I tell you, I was crushed about Snoop.
I know, so was I. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's.
I will
mom
say,
got sick though. I think, right?
Pardon
Is
me?
that the reason his mom got sick?
Well, yeah, his mom got sick, and at first they were just canceling because they weren't really comfortable about going out. Then we were trying to reschedule. His mom got sick, and so they were going through all that. But at the same time, we're doing the same thing at River Edge Park. A lot of places started doing these drive-in remote concerts, right? Where you're boxed off, and either in your car or you have your seats. So we started doing all these different pods, and what we found out there, social distancing. You do these pods 6 feet in each direction. You can't be near them. You get about 6 people in there. We can only get 1,000 people in a 6,000 person venue. So now it becomes really challenging, even for the simplest concert, because we can't afford to get that thing open. So we were nonstop working on all that. Even the policies that we have now with the COVID, the vaccinations and all those, we started working on those 16 months ago and starting to look at all of our different options. So the challenge was, let's have all these different scenarios in place so the day we get an okay, because we knew it's not like the state was going to give us a month's notice. Like it was going to be, and it would have been.
You could open Friday. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's basically what it was. We had canceled the June shows at River Edge Park. Honestly, I thought for sure we're going to be canceling the rest of the season at River Edge. And we're about a week to 10 days away from canceling the July shows when all of a sudden, in fact, we canceled the first week in July because it looked like we weren't going to do that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got the word from the mayor had told us, hey, tomorrow the governor is going to announce, here's what we're going to do. You guys can get River Edge open. And now we're scrambling.
Right.
And then there was all sorts of other shortages, the fact of trying to hire people to come back and work. People weren't comfortable about coming out in the public. Trying to get people to just come back and be comfortable of going back to work again or trying something different and new. And so it was a huge challenge. We were about 60 people short of what we normally hire at River Edge Park for the summer. So many many people had to do double duties again on stuff, and we were fortunate. One of the first concert we got was REO Speedwagon.
That was a big one.
It was huge.
Nice out the box.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that was good.
And it was pressure was on because the deal was, honestly, they were going to play Rib Fest. Rib Fest called off their entire thing. I got a call from a guy named Greg Walton we work with who helps booking. And so we scrambled, put it together. Normally, it probably takes about 3 months to book a band that size. We got that thing budgeted, negotiated, and done within a week because they were looking to do something. We were looking to get everybody out here on stuff. Thank you. Yeah, I'll drink to that.
That's right.
You get a coffee, and you get a coffee, and you get a coffee.
Thank you, live audience.
And cars for everybody in the live audience.
And matcha latte.
But, all of a sudden, we got this national attention because we're the first big rock concert out of the gate in Illinois. It's REO Speedwagon. It's the first time REO Speedwagon is going to be together again. And so it was super cool, and the pressure was on. And now we have to pull this thing off, being shy of all these people. And we did it, but I think, I always go back to, it's the teamwork. It's the essence of what the Paramount is. And everybody pulled together. We did it. It was super cool. And then we had to turn around and get ready for Sammy Hagar. And, we did other shows. And it was fun. And the vibe that day, I'll never forget it. The people were so excited in line.
Oh, yeah.
And
events, there was this moment for events where everyone who was ready to they were just ready to go out the gate, right?
Yeah. I saw the
pent up for months.
Instagram stories.
Yeah, because I know our wine festival down in Oswego that we run was packed too. There was just there were people exploding, ready to be outside and around.
And all summer long, that's what it's been like, and it's been super cool. We closed the show with Point Out Pondering this year, and I don't know, we had 3,000 people there, but when it was over, it was interesting just to watch people hanging out. They had a wonderful time. It was the last summer celebration. People were hanging. You could tell just strangers talking to each other, and no one wanted to go home because it was the end of the summer concerts. You know what I mean? It was that. I think it was that moment where it was a celebration of we got to go do this kind of thing. This has been fun. You felt like it was somewhat normal again, and everybody wanted to drink it in as long as we could. And unfortunately, then we had to just kind of go through the park and be like, hey man, we got to go home. We got to clean the park. Do all this stuff. So it was a whirlwind, man. It was sleepless nights and worrying, are you going to get open again? Are you not going to get open again? The endless meetings, and we got through it, and we're back at it, and we're excited about it.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What are the Zoom meetings like with the Paramount people? I have to imagine they're way more entertaining.
They are super good. Well, we used to do, we would do an occasional Zoom happy hour with departments too on stuff, which I know a lot of people are doing about it.
Working in government is awful.
Well, that's what you guys need to do with the Good Morning Aurora staff is get the 75 staff members that you guys have.
Right.
Yeah.
And
to manage the live audience.
Right, to manage the live audience and do that. It was so weird doing Zoom meetings, and honestly, when I was doing presentations, sometimes people would freeze up on the screen. So as I'm talking, you'd get the weirdest expression, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm bombing. This person hates it. They look bored. I'm watching their face, and their eyes are closed, and then I realize, oh, that was just a blink and caught it. But I'm feeling oh, this isn't going very well, and yeah. But it was so nice to actually get back together and do live meetings again. And now we're doing some hybrids of it. We're still doing some Zoom, some live, and but yeah, man, it's cool.
So you guys were, one of the things that we talked about, you guys were in our news, was that you were the first theater that we saw anywhere around here that made vaccination mandatory to come see this show. Which was very responsible, a good thing to do to protect the actors and everything. Was there a lot of thought? I mean, to us, it seems a no-brainer. But how was that discussion, getting that ready to go?
Honestly, that was 16 months of discussions. Like Tim started those discussions way back when people were furloughed as part of that idea of like, when we get going, hit the ground running, let's look at our options. And so, yeah, number one, for the actors, there's we're an equity house, so it means the actors' equity. And they very much had very specific rules for them about distancing, who can be in rehearsals, masks, vaccinations, all those kind of things. When we were looking at it and having these discussions, it was, what do we do, number one, to keep everybody safe? What do we do to keep the actors safe, and the crews and the musicians and our staff and the artists? And, the best way for us to do it is to make sure that everybody's vaccinated. It was a tough call because Tim, we had meetings as well, and it was decided that for our staff, we, made it mandatory that if you're going to work at a show, you have to be vaccinated. It's the only way for us to do it, and especially if we're going to do that with the audience. The other one was for those who have, religious or medical exemptions, that you have to, come in and come up with a negative test. Then you have to do the research on the test. There's the PCR test. It's within 72 hours of of the showtime that you have had to have that test, or a rapid test within 6 hours. Then we have to talk about children and making sure that everybody has a mask on. And we were going to do that even before the state made it mandatory, because we were trying to do everything we can to also minimize, knowing some people can be carrying even if they are vaccinated. So we went through all this stuff. We had multiple meetings. Tim met with our board of directors. We talked to people from the health department, the city, and we came up with this plan and we launched it. And it was fascinating to watch the firestorm that thing caused.
Yeah, it was. I loved it.
And do you feel like you got more pushback being out here? Because I think one of the things we saw with this whole pandemic is the suburban, rural, urban divide, right? Do you think your counterparts in like the city, like your Broadway show houses in New York and in Chicago, do you think they got the same pushback? Because, I went to a show at the Vic recently, and it was like, of course you had your vaccine card. It was like, no, of course it. Like, they didn't even have to say it, really.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah. But, the interesting thing was, we also garnered national attention from really some extremist groups who looked at it. We were the first one, as you said, out of the gate in Chicago with these policies. And so, when we launched it, that was it. It took off on the internet. And God bless the folks who are our box office associates and our front house staff who have to deal with this. Like the phone lines lit up and the controversy started. I started getting a bunch of calls personally, and it was interesting. We were called Nazis. We were called, anti-American because we're forcing people to do this stuff. There was this big controversy if it's a violation of a HIPAA law, and it truly isn't. The best explanation I heard came from a labor lawyer who said, hey, look, you go to Great America and it says you have to be this tall to do this ride. Mm-hmm. It has to do with safety. It doesn't have to do with anything else. That's exactly this. It's not, we're not breaking any constitutional rights. We're not violating HIPAA laws. We're saying if you'd like to come, here's what you need to do, and it's okay if you don't, but that's what it is on staff. And so it became really tiring for everybody. You just constantly get pounded, and God bless the folks who came to, our defense on the internet. But even then, it still goes on to this day. Like, I got a call from somebody a couple of days ago, and they were asking about what we thought was going to happen with Cinderella. And I had said, it doesn't appear that, anything's changing in the state. It would be my guess that we're going to be implementing the same policies. The only difference would be that we would allow children 3 and up for the show. Right now it's 5 and up for Kinky Boots, but otherwise it's going to be probably the masks and the vaccinations.
I really want to meet the parents bringing their 7-year-old to Kinky Boots, but I want to know
I'm bringing
parents.
My 8-year-old this weekend. Like,
excellent.
Sam has come to all the shows. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
And so
it makes me so happy.
But she had said, that she was arguing with me about the fact of children don't get COVID, and
which is not true,
right? Which absolutely, especially the Delta variant.
Yes,
and it's unfair to make kids to wear a mask. They shouldn't be wearing masks to begin with. It's unhealthy for them. All those kind of things. And I kept trying to explain to them, like, look, listen, we're doing it to try to keep everybody safe. And at the end of the day, if it was up to us, we wouldn't do any of this. We don't want to have to do any of this, but we're doing it to keep everybody safe. We're doing it to keep everybody employed. We don't want to send people home again. And so why does that keep going off? I was at my time.
Because we're
It came from Monica. I'm talking too long. I'm so sorry. She just texted me, please be quiet.
We never cut it off.
Jarvis.
Right, Jarvis. You are
button
done. Boom. Is she at the Jarvis button on that whole thing?
We should have a button that's just like everything.
But, and she literally told me, I have now ruined her 5 and 7-year-old's Christmas because they're not going to be able to come see Cinderella.
Ruined.
And I tried to say, look, it's not my choice. You're the one who's choosing not to test them. And it's your choice, and we respect it. And she kept saying, but, if you're vaccinated, you could be carrying. And I'm like true, there are breakthrough cases.
Correct, yeah.
Right. And we get it, but it's also why you wear masks and all the other things.
Yeah.
And so,
wait until she finds out what the supply chain is going to do to her kids' Christmas. But moving on.
Right, yeah. But even in the house, to this day, it takes its toll on our box office folks and our front of house folks because, once people get in, then they decide they don't want to wear their mask when they're in the theater. And now we got to keep people safe and continue to do that. And it's a really tough and challenging job. And we just want to tell people, look, do us a favor. Please keep your mask on. Do it for everybody's sake.
Be cool.
It's only a couple hours of your entire week. And help us continue to stay open. Help us to continue to help the community and generate business.
You're seeing a world-class production, and all it's really costing you is just your mask.
Right.
I mean, for heaven's sake.
And it's not just supporting us. It's we're all in this together. We keep talking about that. We talk about it. We have a monthly meeting with the mayor, and we're all about, hey, we're all going to make this together or break this together, just in general in Aurora. And so if we're not open, it cuts into El Tiro or Stope Island or other places when it comes to, food and coffee and gas stations and people are coming through here. It's 82% or 83% of the people who come to shows at the Paramount are coming in from outside of Aurora. And so that's income that's being generated into Aurora at gas stations and stores and all those kind of things. And hopefully you come here once and you come back again and you go to Treadwell or, you go over and have a dinner or a drink over at El Tiro or La Quinta or whatever the case is, La Quinta. And so, it's supporting all of us when you wear that mask. And it's hard for people to really take that into consideration and realize the amount of people it affects, not just us.
Tanya Jarvis, Aisa Saxon, Anna Sierra, Grace Cornell, Greg Ellsbury, Josue Pais, good morning, Tracy Duran, Mike Mancuso.
Tracy Duran owes me money. Tracy, where's my $20? I want my money.
Clap back.
So good.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Small towns.
Sunday, Tracy Duran will be at Tavern on Broadway. Sunday,
so
November 7th.
Track them down and get your 20.
Sunday, November 7th.
She will be at. Bring that 20.
She will be at Tavern on Broadway. And then last shout out goes to Karina Suarez Darden. All right, so the time is 8:38.
I'm sorry, I rambled, by the way.
That's why we brought you on. That way we don't have to talk as much.
Oh, I'm filler. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're supposed to ramble. So Monica's got a couple of news headlines for us that she's going to deliver to let us know what's happening locally, and then we will get back to our awesome discussion here with Mr. Jim Jarvis of Paramount Theatre. All right.
The City of Aurora is offering a free home internet security course, helpful and designed to protect all citizens from malicious activity. Aurora's Information Technology Department is collaborating with KnowBe4. This is the world's largest internet security awareness training platform. There are 8 online lessons. To access the platform, we will be sharing this link with you all in our chats. Get ready for Trunk or Treat. Our friends of Wesley United Methodist Church are holding this great celebration on Sunday, October 24th, from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. This will take place in the church parking lot at 14 North May Street. Volunteers will decorate vehicle trunks to dispense treats and trinkets. A prize will be awarded to the best decorated trunk. Save the date and come out for some fun. Saturday, October 30th, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., there will be a great and spooky Halloween party. taking place at McCarty Mills, 140 South River Street. Food by Chef Alton, cupcakes by Anna's Custom Treats, best costume contest, and a book launch by our friends Victoria, Hyla Maldonado, and Dizalassi. That's what's up. Come on out and support all of our local friends. One day I will say her last name correctly.
All right. So Monica's kicking butt.
How come the audience didn't clap for Monica? You were awesome, Monica.
Wait, here. There it is.
There it is.
Yes.
Yes. Can I just say those know before trainings, by the way, that the city is offering, the internet security, they're kind of great. We have them at my office too. And in addition to the actual, there's games and stuff that teach your coworkers how to not open the email with the suspicious link and then forward it on to all of your coworkers, including you, and then it causes mass chaos, which I really appreciate as the young person in the office. But then they also have these this mini series on internet security called The Inside Man. That's this massive drama that has multiple seasons. It's like watching Netflix, but at work you're allowed to do it, and then everyone in your office is did you see the latest episode? What do you think is going to happen?
Wow,
what a training video!
Yeah,
that's cool.
they're primo. They're British, and it's this whole drama. Anyway, so what? Go do the internet security.
Yes,
training.
It's free.
And it's so cool that the city does so many things like that.
That's very
I challenge you to find other cities that do the amount of things that these folks do and all that different stuff. It's cool. It's wonderful to be a part of.
So Jim, you're from the South Side of Chicago.
I am, yes sir.
All right. What was your very first job?
My very first job, I was what they like to call a customer service in those days representative at Jewel, so I was a bag boy.
Me too. Shouts out to
dude. Yeah, bag boy. I did it, and it was.
You want paper or plastic?
Well, in my day, there was no choice. I am a little older now, you guys, and so it was just bags. And it was funny. I'll always remember they didn't have instructional videos then.
No.
So instead, somebody came in and they showed us how to bag, and then you had to practice, and then they shot. And those were the days where the cashiers were doing the things with their hands. It wasn't the swipe. It was super fast. And I'll always remember that there was a dude next to me on a Saturday, and I was doing one lane, he was doing the other, and I looked over as he was putting a flat sheet cake into a brown bag, which is totally cool, and he had it like this. And then when he went to go put it into, the cart, he picked it up, put it sideways, went like that, and you just heard the woman just let this, it was no, she'd be slow-mo diving for it.
No.
He pulled it out of the bag, and you just saw it slide all the way to the bottom.
Was it the whole?
Yeah, she would, because everybody would get those cakes at Jewel.
And you get them decorated for so-and-so's birthday.
Yeah, the Jewel Bakery.
Right, that was it. So that was my first job, man.
Okay.
And then I worked all sorts of stuff. I worked as a lifeguard. I worked construction as a mason's assistant, which was just a brutal job during the summers on stuff, man. And then it kind of went from there, and I ended up going to Illinois State University. I got a 13 on my ACT, and so as my wife likes to.
So that's statistically, if you just put A for everything. I used to teach ACT classes.
Well, my wife, who apparently is watching, will text you and say, well, apparently they did an experiment with a chimp, and the chimp got a one less. It's because you get a point for signing your name. And at the time, I just, I wasn't into school, whatever else, went to junior college, played some football, ended up going to Illinois State, and I changed majors 3 times. And the only reason that I ended up in this major was a friend of mine was like, you should try public relations and writing, and you seem to like that kind of stuff. I ended up getting an internship with the athletic department, and they hired me full-time my senior year as the assistant sports information director at Illinois State. Okay. And then it kind of went from there, man. So I came back to Chicago. I was doing that for years, came back to Chicago, worked a couple different jobs. And the way I even got into the arts was I always wanted to try an improv class. And so I got an improv class when I was 30 for my birthday, and I took it in my first improv class. To this day, I'm still friends with folks, and so it was
so good.
Yeah, like one of my closest friends, Charles Glenn, and Kevin Rome is a Second City person.
Shout outs, yeah.
Tina Fey, and
Tina Fey,
so
that's good.
I went through Second City
Guys,
with
we're just 2 degrees of separation from Tina Fey.
Well, yeah, and so it was super cool that like I got to do this and fell in love with it. So I was a marketing director for a division of the Walt Disney Companies at the time. So it was called Professional Exposition Management Company. We did trade and consumer shows, big shows around the United States and the world. And so I was doing that by day, and then fell in love with improv. So then I started studying Improv Olympic. And then my teammates in those days then were Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and all sorts of other folks. But like the people that I got to play with and watch was like Adam McKay, who Adam McKay and Will Ferrell have teamed up for all sorts of different movies. Adam just won a Oscar 2 years ago for Best Original Script, and like Neil Friend from Scrubs and all these different people to this day that I see on TV, like I got to be a part of that early days. So yeah, I improvised for years, and then wanted to take an acting class at the time, did that, started doing plays and commercials, and the way I ended up meeting Tim Rader was I actually got cast in their very first subscription production at Metropolis in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Who did you play?
I auditioned for Atticus and didn't get it, so I was his understudy, but I was the prosecuting attorney during the whole thing on stuff.
Oh,
so
man.
yeah,
you were the bad guy?
Ended up being the bad guy. Yeah, I did. And then, because you could feel it, like when I'm up there and I'm doing it and I turn around and you could just feel the audience hated me.
Right.
That means you're good.
I guess.
Right? Like,
yeah. So I would always try to do some free work for nonprofits. Since I had this marketing background. And so I met Tim on the opening night. We came and we talked, and they sounded like they could use some marketing help. So I offered to do some free work for them. And instead, he was like, how about we pay you hourly? So I think I got paid like $7 an hour. So and I
What
started.
year was this?
This was in it must have been like Tim and I worked together for 20 years. So. Like
subtraction
2001 2002 and so I started doing work for them, and I was still doing at that point all sorts of consulting and freelance work that were paying my bills, and then I was acting and improvising and doing this. And then Tim, I drank the Kool-Aid. Like, Tim is one of the most passionate individuals I ever met, and he had this dream of what he wanted to do at Metropolis in downtown Arlington Heights. And so he talked me into giving up all of my corporate clients for, as we were talking before, Monica, at the coffee shop, you're thinking about working for nonprofits, for the unbelievably profitable world of nonprofit theater. Right. So I gave that all up and went to work for him, and then have, done it ever since. So Tim had left. Tim opened a school there, much like, they did here, and outreach programs and stuff. So Tim went on to his next project after years. I filled in for him and took over his role. And then he called me one day and was like, hey, man, I'm thinking about doing this. And this is in the midst of the housing crash and the recession and all that. And he said, I'm going to launch a Broadway series in Aurora. And he said, and here's what I'm doing. It's going to buy 2 shows, get 2 shows free. And I used some colorful metaphors when I said this, although apparently you can use it on podcasts, but I'm not going to do it.
Oh, yeah, you can say
and
whatever
I said, you are either going to be the shortest lived career for a CEO in the history of the arts, or you are going to be the most revered. And he's become one of the most revered CEOs for the gamble that he took. And like our board of directors going along and supporting him and all this stuff. And if you look, like all the stuff we've done now, right? We've worked with Universal Studios on Broadway originals. And when we were doing Secret of My Success, and we have this great relationship with Walt Disney and all these other things, it's because of that gamble Tim took. And I'll always remember.
Gamble.
Yeah, dude. I remember coming into downtown Aurora for the first time to meet with him.
Tumbleweeds.
And it was back to the days of COVID at first.
Right.
Like, there were nobody on the streets. I couldn't believe, like, I got down here early thinking, like, oh, it's going to be like Chicago where I got to look for parking. I parked right in front. Nobody was here.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I called my brother and I was telling him I was on the way, and he's like, please tell me you brought some kind of weapon with you. You're going to Aurora. And we're from the South Side, and he said,
yeah.
you know, because it had that reputation. And it's so wonderful now to look and like see people walking their dogs and kids downtown and in the ice cream shop and all this stuff. Like, it's been just nothing but an honor to be a part of, like, you know, the evolution of what's going on, and it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Laura Sanchez Soto, good morning. Good
Let
morning.
me tell you that sitting at that ice cream shop and watching all the very attractive actors moving back and forth in and out of the state is one of my favorite things in downtown Aurora right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
It is a good vibe.
hello, gentlemen.
It is a good vibe. It is nice to see like the mixing of, you know, personalities and the arts kind of, you know, just sinewed together in beautiful downtown.
You know, like the fact of they had the arts, the artist loft over there.
Yeah.
In the midst of all the other projects that are going on down here. It's like it's so different, and I'm fascinated every day to see what's happening on it. And it's so wonderful, even, you know, like in this our School of Performing Arts. You know, Jess and her team over there are amazing, and the classes that they're building, and you know, the reach. It's super cool because, you know, at the end of the day, I think for me, you know, I come from the South Side, so hey, I didn't know anybody where I'm from, man. You played football or baseball or wrestled. You got in a ton of fights, you know, like
That was it.
I smoked dope and,
Like,
and got
like
in trouble.
the Shameless. Do you watch Shameless at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good
right?
show. Yeah.
Yeah, and although I can, if I could drop a name, so
Please
a
do.
good friend of mine called one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to lunch at the Four Seasons downtown. Do you want to go with me?" I was like, wow, I couldn't afford anything like that, and they're very well off, and they were contributors at Metropolis, and I was like, sure, great. So I go to lunch, and as we're walking in, she said, I invited a friend of mine. I think you're gonna like him. Bill's a good guy, and it's the star of Shameless,
William H. Macy.
William H. Macy.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because, you know, like, he's got the long hair, and
Yeah, sure.
you know, he looks
And
totally
he's basically
different.
studying your family, right? To like
He
create
looks-
this like
looks
awful
legit.
person.
And he couldn't have
Yeah.
been it. You know, you're like sitting around and chit-chatting and stuff. But like for me, the arts changed my life. You know, at 30 years old, doing the improv and getting act and doing all the different things that I've gotten to do, and it's made me more confident. Like, I can sit here and have a conversation with all you wonderful folks because, you know, just the training from all of it and the confidence he's given to me and the listening skills. And like, it's cool that I'm watching my kids who have grown up in it and love it and love being a part of it. And like, we did Drag Queen Story Hour a week ago, and our 8-year-old Sam was like, hell yeah, man, I want to be a part of it. We had these protesters outside, and they were protesting that we were basically trying to, change the lives of small children
Turn
in
on.
the wrong
Yeah.
way.
because-
Send them to hell
Right.
early.
And so,
A guy in a dress telling my kid a story is
Right.
going to turn my kid into something that they weren't.
and we were
already.
walking up,
Yeah.
and I always remember Sam was there with a friend of his, and it was my wife and I as well. And we're walking up, and Sam's like, "Dad, what's that?" And I'm like, "Those are protesters." And he was like, "What are they protesting?" And I said, "They're protesting because they don't love everybody. They don't accept everybody." And Sam literally goes, "Dad, I got this," and decides he's going to start crossing the street to take him.
Oh no!
Tiny reaches back like,
yeah,
"Oh
yeah.
no, dude!
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that."
Unfortunate.
Right? Yeah,
Right.
you can't do that whole thing.
Sam against Westboro Baptist.
Right, yes. But the cool part is, like, that's the other thing. Like, theater has shown my kid acceptance, and it is in our house to begin with on stuff. We literally have a rule in our house, and they repeat it as an 8-year-old. He was doing a 6-year-old. We have a rule about don't be a dick. Like, it's a simple rule
It's
of life.
the best
Like,
rule.
you don't have to treat somebody bad. If you're having a bad day, I get it, but still don't do that. Don't judge somebody. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't be a dick. Just go on with your day, man. It's everybody's cool, and if everybody adhere to that, man, it would be a different world.
It's such a simple rule that everybody at every age should be able to understand.
I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
on T-shirts one day and then
DVAD.
sell it online.
Yeah.
That's the thing that upset me about the comments we were talking about earlier. It's like, let's keep it real. who in the world was even going to be going to the box office? I know that you guys get a lot of people coming to Paramount, but nobody was even, all those people commenting in all caps and all that nasty stuff.
Right.
They weren't going to the box office to buy tickets for Kinky Boots anyway.
No.
They just wanted to spew some vitriol and just poison the water for a little bit. And that's unfortunate. Greg Ellsbury says the Paramount and the Broadway series have saved our downtown. Bless those who had that dream. Shouts out to Jenettesplaining as well. Love the information. Gabriel Bradford is here as well. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay.
Thank you.
The time is 8:54 a.m.
Wow, does this fly by?
Right?
I know, right? Damn. I know.
Also, Curtis is like, move it, wrap it up. I'm like, I'm talking as fast as I can, and nobody ever told me to talk faster.
Yeah, dude, I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
The only one talks faster than me is you.
Yeah.
That's right. We partnered on that the world record attempt. You're helping me out with that, and it was you and me going back and forth.
Right.
And I was like, what is happening?
World record for fastest talking? Oh, wow.
Mine's sparked by coffee. I drink 2 pots of coffee a day.
Damn.
And I have a heart condition. And
So that's a good combination.
And my cardiologist is not happy about that. I'm like, dude, there's so many worse things I could do, like
Seriously.
cocaine or speed or
Yeah, you
whatever.
have
So
options.
it's just coffee.
Yeah.
So nobody ever said just say no to coffee. Nancy Reagan never said that.
No.
Say no to drugs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was against rap, too.
Right, yeah, that's it.
Rap got the last laugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure did.
So, next question. 1, what's wrong with America? And 2, what can the arts do to help?
Sure. I think what's wrong with America goes back, honestly, to that whole message from Kinky Boots. And it's people just can't accept people. They don't, or even people can't have a conversation anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like in the old days, look, I may not agree with your opinion, but I'm at least here to accept your opinion. I think, like to deviate for a second, my dad had 3 roles. He was in World War II and like he was in the mix, 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star, and he saw the shit. And when we were in high school, my dad said, look, I got 3 things that you and your brother always have to do. Number 1, you got to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Number 2, that you have to vote, because I've been to places that they weren't allowed to do that and people were taking over, etc. And number 3, no matter what happens, whether you agree with it or not, you have to support free speech, and you got to listen to people. And I think that's the problem, right? Like when they started taking a knee, people didn't listen to why they were taking that knee, and Kaepernick was doing it, and with Black Lives Matter in those early days of stuff. They just saw it as you're being disrespectful, and you weren't listening to the true message, and nobody can have a conversation about it anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest problems in the world. And I think Kinky Boots is a perfect example, man. Nobody's trying to change you into something. Nobody is trying to, make you do something you don't want to do. It's, hey, this is who I am, this is my life, and accept it. I'm going to accept you for who you are, right? But politics anymore, like that I will be honest, like, I have no family left. Everybody passed away years ago, and my brother, as wonderful a human being as he was very conservative, and if he was alive, I don't know what would have happened to the 2 of us, because after all that shit happened with Trump, and all those extremists, like, I don't know that we could have had a conversation about it, because I think he would have turned into one of those people. And I think that's the problem, man. Nobody's talking, nobody's accepting, everybody's made a judgment on somebody. We see it on Facebook, and even some of the people who are well-meaning, like, I was monitoring social media when we did the Indigenous post, and people who were coming to our support also had some of these posts, and it was a Native American with giving the finger. I'm like, you can't do that.
Right.
Like, I get your point, and look,
as soon as you start being shitty about it, then everyone shuts down.
Some of the people, there were some people who did your approach and talked about the history of it. Beautiful, great. That's what we need to do. But don't swear at somebody. Don't start using racial slurs. Don't give the finger. Don't do whatever else. Like, just give your points and listen. And if you have to, agree to disagree, and let's move on. Don't be a dick. But I think that, to me, like, truly, that's the biggest change I've seen. And, honestly, I'm turning 60 in another month. And so I've gotten to watch all this stuff over my years. And it's so disappointing to see, because in my world, in some respects, I love the fact of, like, my son's best friend, Christian, is black, and Sam's closest knit friends are Hispanic and black, which you didn't see in the old days when I was growing up, right? And you see that part of it now.
South side, right? It's like this line
right,
is like, and this line.
Like Chicago's always known for being one of the biggest segregated cities.
Segregated
you
city in
think
the
about that
country.
going on in the South. Screw that noise, man. I watched it.
It
was
wasn't
terrible
block
to
by
see.
block the way it is.
And so, as much as I love to see this, and like, it was wonderful that we had one of Sam's friends explain to him one time, like, hey, he's your brother and he happens to be Latin American, but guess what? You're going to get treated differently than him the whole life, because why you think you're a brother, you're white. And you got to understand, you're always going to have to stick up for your friends on stuff. And it's terrible that that's the case still, you know what I mean? So for as much as I like to see this, and I think it's wonderful and huge steps, at the end of the day, we still end up in this divide, and it sucks so badly. And I think what theater can do is continue with these messages, right? Of trying to show acceptance. Like we've gotten emails from people, including somebody I know who, may not have been pro-gay, but they came and saw the show, or they didn't understand it, or they might even been anti-gay, but they were more open after they saw the show, including somebody that I know who came and saw the show and was like, wow, it opened my eyes, and especially opened my eyes to somebody that would come from the transgender community. So I think that's our role, is keeping challenging people, having conversations with people. Like, while I think it sucks at times watching the fights on Facebook, if they can just be healthy dialogue as opposed to that, screw off, you're a racist, screw off, you're this, and just everybody talk like you did right here, and just talk about the facts and talk about your feelings without that emotion. I think that's our role in getting that conversation going.
Yeah, storytelling is really known for building that empathy in people, right? People who read books, people who go see theater, all of that, like it builds the ability, the imagination to understand another person's perspective in a way that they might not get just from reading news or nonfiction.
And even the outreach things that our schools doing, like that's Drag Queen Story Hour.
Paramount School of the Arts, you mean?
Yeah, or Paramount School of the Arts. Is, getting, Sam to be able to meet somebody from the transgender community and them getting to ask questions. Like, it was great that, trying to educate, and even the parents that were there who never had that exposure before. Like, all those outreach programs that our folks in the education department are doing as part of that thing that we bring as Paramount. We're opening this series called the Bold Series, and we're going to announce next week what the shows are. It's going to be these shows in our 165-seat theater. It's going to be shows, that we wouldn't normally do on the main stage, but we're going to do there. It's going to be a subscription series, and there's going to be some really intense shows there. There's this really wonderful piece that's coming out of it, and it's about somebody coming home back to Chicago and trying to, assimilate themselves back into the community that's changed, and, how people perceive them. And, so all of those different things that we do like that, I think get us a step closer to, continuing the conversations with people.
So exciting.
Yeah, one of the best stories so far in the history of Good Morning Aurora. I was at Treadwell one day, had the Good Morning Aurora t-shirt on, and some guy, with a, he had the sticker of the former president all over his truck, pulls up, he sees me, and he says, "Good morning, Aurora. Oh, man, I love that." I was like, and he gave me I still wear the hat. He gave me this motorcycle, got the American flag hat from his company, whatever.
Oh, cool.
He was like, "Man, would you wear the hat and show support?" I was like, you know what? Hell yeah.
Aurora,
I appreciate that. I appreciated that a lot.
Aurora as a city is so uniquely positioned, right? Because we're on the edge of Chicagoland, right? Which is very the liberal bubble, right? But we're also on the edge of sort of not that, right? And so you have the opportunity in a small city like this where everybody knows everybody to interact with people who don't think the same way as you. I don't think we have in other cities, so... Yeah. Should we promote Kinky Boots? This is the last weekend.
Yeah. Last weekend. So we got a show tonight at 8 o'clock, and then we have a show tomorrow at 3 and 8, and Sunday it is at 1 o'clock, and the final performance is at 5:30. And, any of those are amazing, but I will tell you, I think especially the closing night show at 5:30 is always a very special show, but I think it's even going to be more so given the fact of the story that we're telling and the fact of this was our first show back after COVID.
So I bought the
and what
wrong
that
tickets
means.
because I'm going to 8 p.m. Saturday.
It'll be a great show, though. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, it's always good. It's always like amazing.
But
Cinderella's November 10.
Yep, we got Cinderella. Then we go into Groundhog Day after that. And then we're going to finish up with Rock of Ages. And then we have all these one-off shows, and we've had to condense them all into March. And honestly, that was another move that had to do with COVID because we weren't sure when we were going to, how long we'd run Broadway shows, what we needed. We needed the room in case Tim needed to run Kinky Boots for 9 months. So, well, we have like the Frank Caliendo, Straight No Chaser, Under the Street Lamp, Man in Black. All those shows are going to be condensed into March. And then
Man in Black.
Yeah, Man in Black. And it's Johnny Cash.
That's
It's
right.
an amazing Johnny, and I'm a huge
Yeah,
Johnny Cash
yeah,
tribute.
yeah.
And so, like, I'm very particular. If you're going to find one, man, like, oh, we're doing Purple Rain. Oh, this dude, we had him a
snap.
few years
Purple
back.
Rain.
Yeah, and my wife is an enormous Prince fan. And so I would test, like, when I get videos, I know enough people where I will send him and say, what do you think of, it's especially a tribute show, what do you think of this? And I'll get people to chime in on stuff. And I do it all the time. And I will tell this as well, like, hey, when people ask me how, I look at shows, I always tell people, if you got an idea, send it to me. You can go on the website and see my email address. Every single show that somebody sends me, I give at least 1 minute to take a look because you can tell at that point, is it the caliber or whatever else. But like Purple Rain, amazing. Man in Black, amazing. Like these are going to be really cool, fun shows. And so check it out, ParamountAurora.com. And let me finish saying this.
No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
If I could.
I was just looking at the time. It's 9:06, but we good. Go ahead.
Oh, is it really? I'm so sorry.
No,
man.
keep going. Keep going.
So we've had a lot of instances where people have been buying tickets from third-party sites. If that's your deal, that's super great, and there's nothing wrong with it, and they're totally legal. But we had a person buy a ticket for $225.
You don't have to do that.
No, you don't.
You can just buy them from here, from the Paramount.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
much less.
There's names like Aurora Box Office or those kind of things. That's not us. ParamountAurora.com or call the box office and verify where you're getting your ticket. Because there's no reason that you can buy a $45 ticket and you just spent $2.25 on a ticket.
Right.
Don't.
And you're not giving back the $2.25.
Right.
That's not happening.
That's just all markup.
Yeah, and what happens is how that whole thing works, and it's illegal in Illinois, is they don't even have the ticket in their possession. They get your credit card. They give you a range of where you can get the tickets. Then they have these accounts set up. They use their credit card, buy the tickets, put it under the person's name. And so if something happens, if like we cancel the show, whatever else.
You don't get your money back.
Excuse me, it's not us.
Yeah.
We never even knew you bought that ticket from somebody else.
Well,
And especially during the holidays, so do that.
Yeah, that's thank you for saving people some money. That's some good information to have. All right. Hell of an interview, man.
Dude,
That was good.
Can
this
I
was
say
awesome.
this?
This was an awesome
Yeah.
show.
You are wonderful to all you guys. And you were telling me how you got started, that this all started in your bathroom during COVID, basically.
Yeah, it did.
And it is so cool, like, to be a part of something that evolved like that. And I think, like, that's another example of, like, that's what's right in the world. Like, hey, man, find something. You were passionate about the news. You gave it a shot. You started small, and you keep evolving into this thing.
It's growing.
And it's just keep going and going. And for everybody supporting it, and for you stepping up saying, I asked you how you got involved, and you're like, I just want to do something for Aurora and be a part of it. And you're here now, and you've always been a good supporter.
I don't know
of
how
this
I
stuff.
showed up.
You said that video of you talking really fast, and Curtis is like, yes!
That'll work.
I'm
That'll
going to
work.
get him. So thank you. And thank you guys for shedding light on everything that you do, man. It's super cool.
Yeah, we're trying to put Aurora in a good light. All right, you guys, have a blessed weekend. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. Hit us up on Spotify. And
Patreon.
November 7th.
We have the Patreon.
Yeah.
Give us money so that we can keep buying coffee
November,
for our guests.
November 7th. Be at 24 North Broadway, Tavern on Broadway, Noticias y Mimosas, live show with Tracy Duran showcasing art history there for you. Mimosas are $4.
Just
and you will have the
writing down the
greatest
date so we
time
can
of
get us
your
$20
life.
back.
All right.
Tracy, you owe me $20 right there. That's what I want.
That's where it's going to be.
$20.
All right.
So good.
And with that, we hope that you guys have a blessed weekend. We'll see you Monday. Take care of yourself and each other.
Adios, Aurora.
Thank you.